away after winning his 100th game as the head coach here at Notre Dame.
The reason I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I was born in this country. It isn't what you have, it's what you're taught about the values of life.
We trying to save souls.
So there's a rule in life that said you're either growing or you're dying. And like an old friend once said, we as Americans need to start winning again.
Everyone should ask this question. Am I willing to endure the pain and the suffering and the sacrifice it takes to be a champion?
Welcome to the Lou Holtz Show. I've always felt that everybody needs four things in their life. Everybody needs something to do, someone to love, someone to believe in, but more importantly, something to hope for. I'm 87 years of age, and this show gives me something to do. And I don't care if you're white, black, yellow, or any color in between, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent. The purpose of this show is to bring people on that can bring back the values that we cherish as we're growing up. I hope you'll find this show interesting, and if not, it's because of me and certainly not my guest. We're very fortunate to have a very unique individual that I know very well, have great respect for, and that is Aaron Taylor. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about Aaron Taylor. He's a former NFL offensive lineman, is the lead analyst for CBS Sports network coverage of college football, as well as a studio analyst on the very popular weekly college football show. Most notable for his time at the University of Notre Dame, Taylor was a consensus first-team All-American 92 and 93. He also won the prestigious Lombardi Award in 93, which named him the best lineman in the entire country. He was inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame in the year 2021. Taylor was drafted by the Green Bay Packers in the first round of the 94 NFL Draft, was a member of the Super Bowl XXXI championship team. He went on to play 6 seasons in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers and the San Diego Chargers. In 2015, Taylor founded the prestigious Joe Moore Award, which annually recognizes the best offensive line unit in the country, and is the only current college football award that honors a group or unit. He founded the Aaron Taylor Impact Fund, which tries to bridge the gap between those who have and those who need. In the spring of 2001, he participated in a 5-month volunteer program and taught English to high school students in South America. Taylor's been widely recognized for his mentoring children, for his work with athletes in transition. So he's a rare individual who's really done an awful lot of things. So welcome to the show, Aaron. That's a little bit different than what we usually do. I'm usually telling you what to do. Now I'm just going to ask for your guidance. How you been?
I've been really good, Coach. I appreciate it. It's always a joy to spend time with you. I got to say right off the top how appreciative I am of you and the modeling and the mentorship and the tutelage that you give. When people ask me what it was like playing for you, I was like, he taught us how to be good football players, but he also taught us how to be good men and good fathers and good husbands, good sons, good employees. And you taught us about life without us even really realizing it. It was always within the context of football.
Notre Dame, it goes on and on, but also the success our football players have had after their football life was over, what they've done as fathers, as husbands, and more importantly, or equally important, is good, solid citizens. And I am proud to be here. It's just special.
A couple of old magic tricks thrown in there to boot to kind of make some points.
But you can't let people tear you up. You can't let people destroy you. You can't let people say you aren't going to be great. Don't ever let anybody tell you you can't do something. My personal belief is there isn't any obstacle that's going to keep me from being successful. Difficult, you're doggone right. That's why so few people achieve success. Don't let people tear you up. Don't let people tear you down. Don't let people cause you to lose the faith and confidence you have in yourself. Because if you really have a strong faith and a strong belief,
but I'm deeply, deeply grateful for the role that you played in my life. When I look back about what's allowed me to enjoy the success that I've had, it's people. And it's people that believed in me. It's people that believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself until I eventually could do that. And I battled confidence my entire career. Even the morning of getting inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame, there was a thought in the back of my head that was like, man, you don't belong to be here. Look at all these other guys. So that was a demon that I had to battle throughout my entire career. And many of the things that you taught me allowed me to be successful despite some of those limitations. And I just want to say how deeply grateful I am, and thank you so much just for being you, because it's had an incredible impact on my life.
Aaron, you humbled me, and those comments, I can't begin to tell you how much I'm pleased to hear that, because that's all your life is, the coach. You're trying to teach people how to make good choices, and yet your background, I know your background. Most people don't, but it's really unbelievable. And it's a joy and honor to have you. You're an incredible person with a heart for service. I remember your mother had a heart for service as well. And as a matter of fact, one thing she did was she raised drug babies for the state, as I recall.
Yep.
What are some of the lessons that you were taught by her?
Man, I was raised by a single mother. She was a pediatric ICU nurse at Children's Hospital in Oakland, California for 25 plus years. Then went into, took care of drug babies, as you mentioned, for a program that would rehabilitate the babies when they were born. Hopefully the mothers would get rehabilitated and they would reunite, ideally. That didn't happen often. But after that, she also worked in hospice. So what I got a chance to see was a caregiver and somebody that was all about service through and through. As a single mom with, a kid that was a knucklehead, we always had food on the table. I had a lot of wants, but no needs. She took care of business. We always had what we needed to get by, and she was willing to make sacrifices for me. So when I look back on the role that she played, man, Coach, there was a moment at De La Salle High School, okay, and I get emotional sometimes telling this story. I went to practice and I couldn't do anything right. The play was going right, I went left. The play was going left, I went right. It was just a disaster. So I come home after we had moved. She had changed jobs and had moved mountains to give me this opportunity to go to De La Salle. And I came home from crying that first day and slammed the door. She comes into my room. She says, "What's going on?" I said, "It was awful. I'm so sorry. This isn't going to work out. There's no way I can go back and do that again." And she said, "You have to think about if what you want is worth the price that you're willing to pay. Or are you going to let those men that are yelling at you in this hard set of circumstances determine your fate?" Boom, she shut the door. I didn't get much sleep that night, and I had a lot to think about, but I did get up the next morning and I went back to practice and I made a block. And then I went back the next day and I made a couple more blocks. And I went back the next day and I made a couple more blocks. And what I started to realize is I was pretty dang good at football. I just didn't know it yet. So for me, the gold in my life lies just beyond where I've been afraid or unwilling to go. And my mom, the role that she played was to push me to that edge, to let me make that decision and that choice. And when I willingly stepped into that fear, the invisible doors started to open. And 2 years later, maybe a year later, Jay Hayes comes in to recruit me. Joe Moore gets on an airplane, comes in my living room, and then at 17 years old, on December 2nd, 1989, I met you at the Notre Dame football banquet. And none of that would have been possible or taken place had I not had a parent who challenged me to give me the confidence, the belief in myself to step into that unknown and take a chance.
Well, I got to tell you this, Aaron. You were a great player. There's no doubt about it. But you had a great mother. You didn't have a father, but you had a special mother. And I got to tell you this, that you were in some difficulty in high school. You made some bad choices. But the thing that influenced me was you had a good mother. And if you have a good mother, you're going to eventually have a good person. That's what happened with you. As a young man, when you made bad choices, you got into trouble, what was the most important moment where you decided that a life of crime and work towards helping others, you had to make that decision? I know it wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. At 14 years old, the world was moving pretty fast for me. I was a kid that got divorced, parents at 2 years old. I was physically and sexually abused at 5. Abandonment took place at 8. I was biracial, so I had these identity issues of not being black enough, not being white enough, never really felt like I fit in. And we moved every 2 years. So I was always a new kid in school, new friends, new rules, new everything. So I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be a part of. And I didn't know how to ask for that or even really how to do that. So I started drinking alcohol and smoking a lot of marijuana. And those choices led to me getting kicked out of the house. So at 15, my mom kicked me out, literally 6 months before I get to De La Salle. And I come back home and she asked me what I wanted to do. And I just blurted out, I want to be a pro football player. Well, how do you do that? We go to college and they draft you and just give you a bunch of money. Oh, everybody get drafted? No, just the best players. And when I was in college, grades are important. Do you have to have good grades in college? Yeah, you got to have a 2.0. Well, how do you get to college? And she just worked me back so that I could see that my life was really about my choices, my actions, and my consequences. That what I was doing right now would directly lead to who and what I would become later on. And as simple as that sounds now, it's a connection that I had never made. So I came back into the house about a week after sleeping on my buddy's floor and using his underwear and dirty socks as a pillow. And again, the invisible door started open. There was a story that night about this high school called De La Salle across the bay that had a 44-game win streak. And their coach was talking about his players knowing that they're not it, that they're part of it. And having a higher standards and being part of something greater than yourself. And I said, Mom, see, that's the sort of place that I want to go. And that was De La Salle High School, a Catholic high school. So as I look back, there was a lot of similarities between Notre Dame and De La Salle, and I think ultimately that's why I made my decision.
You're always an outstanding teammate, and Notre Dame was fortunate to have you. Can you share your favorite memory from playing at Notre Dame?
Man, there's so many. I think the win we had against Florida State, the first game of the century, ESPN Game Day, the debut of that show being on campus there at the ACC, the satellite truck showing up way earlier than they had. There was a buzz and electricity. Charlie Ward, Warwick Dunn, Derek Alexander. I mean, a who's who of players. And I remember that week we come in and said, man, I got to tell you, this may be the fastest defense I've ever seen on film. We're going to have to play at our best even to keep it close. So we break, we go into the meeting room, and Coach Moore goes, the little guy with glasses is right. These guys are pretty good. They are pretty fast. They run laterally as well as I've ever seen. But let's see what happens when we punch them in the mouth. Hit the lights. Boom. That was the moment. I got tingles telling the story right now. That was the moment, Coach, that I knew we were going to win that game. And it was a dogfight till the very end.
He's going to score. Bacon. He is clear. 15, 10, 5, touchdown. All-right offense. And the give is to Jeff Burns. Burns into the end zone, touchdown.
So after that game, as a senior captain, winning that game, being on the field, watching the euphorias, like time stopped and got slow because that was such a major accomplishment.
This was just a great football game. I compliment Florida State, Charlie Ward. They refused to quit. Our players didn't either. It's one game, and I think lived up to all the hype.
For us at that time, especially given what happened the next week when we stubbed our toe against Boston College. But when I think back of Notre Dame and memories on the field about what we did, looking around in the eyes of my teammates in those huddles and those big moments is what comes up first.
Well, you know what's amazing, Aaron, is we beat Florida State the following week. We lost to number 9 Boston College at home, which some people said, well, they gave it to Florida State even though we beat them. However, the one thing about it, we were behind 39-14 late in the third quarter, and we went to Kevin McDougal, started throwing the football, the offense, and we made a comeback 42-41, and we dropped an interception, which would have sealed the game. But that's all part of life, and you move on. You played in 2 Super Bowls with the Packers, including your win on Super Bowl XXXI.
It was one of the biggest momentum-changing plays in Super Bowl history, and the only kickoff return for a touchdown in Desmond Howard's 11-year NFL career.
And now, baby, it's over. Your big Lombardi trophy is coming home where it started.
The former high school assistant And just
Describe how you felt playing in these games. What was your biggest fear and what was your biggest motivation getting ready to play in a Super Bowl?
You get to the Super Bowl, like that's the creme de la creme. It's what every little kid imagines in their backyard as they fall asleep and posters on the wall. You want to play your best in the biggest moments. So all of us, I think, were terrified of losing that opportunity. And I remember your words, what were in my head through that process is nothing worse in life than a missed opportunity. And we knew we had a great one there. So going into the game, I just wanted to do my job. At the heart of team sports is a bunch of individuals. Do your job. So I was hyperly focused on what it is I needed to do. And I was afraid that if I didn't play well, what that might mean when my head hits the pillow. How would I think about what that performance was? I didn't want things to haunt me. But what I was excited about was this was the best of the best. And Coach, I got to tell you, it was the fastest I've ever played football in my life. I had no idea that there was that extra gear. And I think all of us, all 22 players on the field at any one time, were feeling that way. It was incredible. The intensity, every play mattered. Everything felt pivotal and significant. And to raise that Lombardi trophy, there's a shot that NFL Films has where I'm spinning around and pirouetting and doing a 360 with my arms up as the confetti's coming down. That'll be etched in my mind forever because that immediately put us in the upper echelon of professional football teams that had accomplished the sport's greatest trophy.
Well, you know, you also illustrate what I've said so many times. Great teams are because players don't want to let their teammates down. They understand, they have so much faith in their teammates. If I do my job, we're going to be successful. Now, you have stated that you struggled in the transition from the NFL into the real world. Tell me how you overcame these, because that's one of the biggest problems that professional football players have in general, is making the transition from being world known to all of a sudden you're just another guy.
Well, the first thing I had to do was stop drinking wild turkey every day.
That would do it. Oh, no doubt.
That was a really good start for me. Looking back, though, I was having an identity crisis, and that's what I think all of us go through. And I've come to look back and now call what football provided me as the 5 pillars of fulfillment. The first is income, how I receive value for the value I bring. The second's identity, how I'm known to the world, but also how I'm known to myself. And that's kind of where it starts to get underneath the water if you're thinking about an iceberg, if you will, because there's purpose, why I feel I was put on this planet. There's significance, how I know I make a difference. And finally, community, how I know and how I'm reflected being part of something greater than myself. So income, identity, purpose, significance, and community were the things that football provided in one occupation that in an instant were over. So many of us struggle to find out what's next. Many of us, like myself, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what my preferences were. I was always working towards something that had to do with football, and that was never further than 6 months out. So many of us struggle because we don't know what it is we're going to do in the second act of our life. We don't ever think about that we're going to be ex-athletes a heck of a lot longer than we're ever going to play the game. And we struggle to find what's next. So I had to crash and burn like a lot of folks, but using the same things that allowed me to be successful as an athlete, being resilient, asking for help through coaches and mentors and strength coaches and those sort of things. But in the life skill department, I was able to get back on my feet, and now I enjoy trying to help guys smooth out that transition, because even if you're prepared for it, it's still really, really difficult to go through.
How did you get into TV? Because that's not real easy to do, and you've done such a great job with it.
And Coach Holtz says, get up, rack him up, run the play again. But Aaron Taylor, get out. So he kicks me out, and they end up running the play. But there's a space where the left guard is. So there's 10 people on the field. He wants the play run again. And everybody's confused. Nobody really knows what's going on. The other team's looking at it like, what's Holtz doing? You know, I'm like, Coach, let me back in there. No, get out, get out. So they come up to the line of scrimmage. There's 10 people in there. There's a left guard that's missing. The quarterback comes up, blue 52, set hot, whoop out. Defensive lineman, same thing. Runs in, smacks the running back, knocks him down. Coach Holtz comes running up to me, grabs my face mask, says, "See, Aaron Taylor, doesn't matter whether your ass is in there or not. No different."
You're going to have to call Coach Holtz after the show. Oh, that was a good one, Aaron.
Yeah, especially with this face, Coach. You'd think I'd be a radio guy, but I think it was at Notre Dame being able, in some of the training and media training that you made sure that we had, that translated to going to the NFL and being a guy that was a good teammate and would articulate things to the media really well and would spend time, was well-spoken, I guess. And after my career with the Chargers, I did a post-game show. And that was kind of one thing led to another. So I had an opportunity to be a college football analyst for CSTV, College Sports Television, the first ever dedicated college network on the planet. And that, of course, became CBS Sports Network and launched really what's, commonplace all over our country now. So it was a smooth and natural transition. What I like about it is I'm an important member of a team, but I'm not the most important part. We're together. The red light comes on. That's the performance. That's the time of intensity where the energy and the focus and the recall, all that has to be there. So it mimics what it is we did as an athlete. And there's a big, long off season, which I enjoy as well. So I think the combination of all that allowed me to have the income and identity piece that I miss with football, but it also provides me a lifestyle where my purpose, significance, and community, where I Frankenstein my fulfillment, is allowed to take place as well.
Boy, I wish you talked to our team. Those are great lessons there. But 30 days after the Indian Ocean earthquake, you were on a plane bound for Sri Lanka, where you helped to rebuild communities for many weeks. What motivated you to do that? Just a couple, right after the hurricane, there you go. What motivated you?
Coach, it was crazy. I don't know if we've ever seen any natural disaster like that in our lifetime. That 9.4 magnitude earthquake off the Sumatran coast there, where the earth jumped 100 meters in an instant and sent waves going in every direction. We had never witnessed anything like that. And you remember the tragic pictures of the people on the beaches, running towards the walls of water that were coming, looking at the fish flopping on the beaches because they didn't know what was coming. And something spoke to me, and I, for lack of a better way to describe it, I felt called to go over there. I had no idea what I was going to do. I literally knocked on the door of the U.S. Embassy and was like, what do I need to know? Where should I go? Where should I avoid? How can I help? And 10 weeks later, we had built 40 temporary houses and a community center in the community of Kasgota there. There was a beachside town that had 4,000 families that got displaced. But not a single person ever moved into those houses, and that community center never got used. And the reason it didn't is because I didn't ask enough questions. I had really good ideas, Western ideas or grandiose ideas of how I was going to take the rubble from the school to rebuild and the foundations of these new starts. But I didn't ask the community what it is they needed. It was a big waste of time, a big waste of money, but it was a huge lesson that has served me since. And that's have more questions and be curious instead of before you have answers and solutions. So that helps me with my work in transition. That helps me with my work in mentoring. That helps me in my work in recovery and mental health, is to have more questions, be curious, to be clear about what's going on before you go find a way to build the new mousetrap.
You said you must ask these questions to try to find out what people need in order that you can help them. Why do you think so many assume they know best and refuse to ask questions?
Man, I don't know. Psychologically, we all want to believe that our viewpoint on life is the correct viewpoint. Those of us who are married know that there are more than a couple different ways to look at almost everything in my house. But I think it comes from a good place. It's well-intended. But when we become positional about what needs to take place, that it has to be this way, for me, I found that the outcomes aren't as good as compared to when I can think about a collaborative and a collective solution. And we're at a time right now where people are very positional about their beliefs, and for good reasons. But the black and white world that we've become, literally and figuratively in certain respects in this country, there's some shades of gray that I think coming back to the table and having some collective decisions. One of the things I do with my wife when we're having a disagreement, instead of standing face to face and talking, we'll stand side by side. I'll put my arm around her and we'll say, okay, there's the problem. And let's say it's me working and not being as home as much as you would like. How are we going to solve that problem? That's my responsibility and it's my actions that are doing it. But just shifting and standing with proximity, shoulder to shoulder, and looking at the problem versus each other opens up opportunities and tends to calm things down and create solutions that otherwise we might not have seen. So I think being biracial, Coach, I'm able to see multiple sides of all things. I had to learn to adapt. So I sit in the seat of everybody that's at the table, and I can imagine what that's been like because I've probably sat in that seat to a certain degree. So I know that my viewpoint is unique because it's one of my lived experience and the way that I grew up. But at the end of the day, the way that we're going to solve complex problems is by being creative and by being collaborative. And I just don't think, because there's so much other things that are attached to actions and outcomes and finances and politics, and all those things are important and necessary and not intrinsically bad, that those things are what get us off track and askew and don't allow for maybe something else that would have taken place had we taken the time to have deeper conversations, have more curiosity, because when we get to the heart of matters, we all want safety, we all want security, we all want opportunity and liberty and freedom and economic prosperity. We just have different ideas about how to get there.
I agree with you. Very well said. The culture in this country is not what it was when I was growing up, not even the one same as you. What do you believe is the key to restoring American, where young people believe in themselves? You go back to your time. You know, it's a different time now than it was when you were young. What is the key to the young people today?
That's a great and very big and deep question, Coach. I appreciate that. The thing that floated up first for me when you asked that is, at some point, we went from parents wanting a better future for their children to having an easier future for their children. Oh. And I don't know, and I'm not smart enough to know all the things that took place, but that's what I see. We don't allow our kids to fail. Everybody gets a trophy. The adversity that you had to go through, that I've had to go through, that created and made us who we are, we largely try to protect young people as they're coming up. It's a world of convenience and instant results. Like we had to go to the library and look up on microfiche in Encyclopedia Britannicas if we wanted information. We didn't say, hey, Siri, what's that, da-da-da-da-da. So I think because of that, young people have lost the belief that they can endure tough times because they largely haven't. They've been sheltered. And I think when we have an ability to tap into that resilience, to know who it is we are, to dig deep, to willingly step into those fears, that's the fire that forges us. So instead of trying to think about what's easiest for people, let's get back to thinking about what's best for people. How can we serve them? How can we challenge people? How can we create systems and mechanisms that allow people and support people and encourage people to fail their way to success? We've gotten away from that somehow. And if we don't get back there, I'm scared to death about what that future looks like. So as a father of 3 kids, where I can start is in my own home. If I raise 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, to go out in the world, to believe in themselves, to work hard, to be service of others, to do the right thing, do right. If I can do that, then hopefully my neighbors will, hopefully their neighbors' neighbors will, and maybe we can get this thing back on track.
Well, we have no option but to get it back on track. I wish I could highlight your answer on that because I agree with it completely. I've never had a catastrophe and adversity happen in my life, Aaron, that didn't turn out to be a positive if I reacted favorably to it and understand that adversity is part of life. You get knocked down, you get back up, brush yourself off, and continue to move on. And you've heard me say this so many times. I don't care what you accomplish in this world, and you've done so many great things. Unless you're successful as a husband and a father, you failed. I don't care how much money you make, how much your obligation as a husband and a father is the most important thing. And I got to say this, I've coached a lot of players, Aaron. I never coached a better player than you, and I say that sincerely. You were a great player, but you were also a great teammate. You were captain on some great football teams. You provided leadership for the younger players, and that lived on even after you left Notre Dame because your attitude carried over to the younger people as well. And I can't thank you enough, Aaron, for being my guest on this show. And I tell you what, it's going to be difficult to duplicate you because the way you express things, hell, I wish I'd known that when you played for me. I would have had you talk to our team before a big ball game because you express yourself exceptionally well. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. If you have a problem, you call me, Aaron, then you call 911. God bless you. God bless this country. Go Irish. Thank you, Aaron.
Go Irish, Coach. I love you, buddy. God bless you.
And I love you.
And he walks away after winning his 100th game as the head coach here at Notre Dame.
The reason I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I was born in this country. It isn't what you have, it's what you're taught about the values of life.
We trying to save souls.
See, there's a rule in life that said you're either growing or you're dying. And like an old friend once said, we as Americans need to start winning again. Everyone should ask this question. Am I willing to endure the pain and the suffering and the sacrifice it takes to be a champion?